Howdy folks, it's Tulter here. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and this is a bonus video today, just a quick one talking about how to plan flights in the simulator without ever having to leave the simulator. And I know I can be wordy on some topics, so if you want to skip around the video, just click on the different sections of the timeline below the video, or go to the description below the video and use the table of contents there. And just for the record, we are in version 1.11.7 in the simulator. The reason I'm making this video is because I spend a lot of time on the Discord, the official Flight Sim Discord, and helping people and watching other people help other people. And the biggest issue I'm seeing is that the people giving the help with all good intentions are forgetting their audience. So the people giving help are often long-time simmers who are very serious, very realistic, accidentally pretentious even, or maybe intentionally pretentious, I don't know. But they forget that their audience, 97 or 98% of the time, is just a regular person who just wants to plan a flight. They don't really need to know how to calculate fuel and the best altitude and the best cruise speed, and they don't need to know these things that you can do if you want to. So anyway, what's happening is I'm seeing these people are like, hey, you need to use this website and you need to use this and you need to do this. And it's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. One thing I love about the simulator is you never need to leave it to do everything. You never need to go to an external website. You never need to buy anything. I know people say you need all, no, you don't. You don't need any add-ons. You don't even need to go to SkyVector. You don't need to go anywhere if you don't want to. And 97, 98% of the people using the simulator, that's exactly what they want to hear. You don't need to leave the sim. You buy the sim, you're done. Now, if you want to go to the next level and do your own flight planning and do this, do all that stuff, you can. But for the most part, for most people, you don't need to do that. And that's what's happening. The people giving advice are forgetting that. They're like, oh yeah, you need to know how to use this website. And no, you don't. No. So this video is for the 98%, 97% of people who just want to plan a flight and they're a little bit confused because they've never done it before or they want to get a little better at it. That's the point of this video. So we're going to break it down into VFR and IFR. Very simple, simple as possible, get the job done. But no matter what you do, you want to start by clicking on the world map. This is where all the magic happens. So let's click here together. So you'll be greeted with your world map, and the very first thing I do is I select the airplane I'm going to fly. So let's start with a simple VFR, a very VFR flight, as simple as possible. So let's start with a slow, easy plane. If I had liveries, they'd be here. You can mess with stuff here if you want to. None of this you have to do. You can if you want to, but basically you're going to choose your plane and hit close. Then you're going to go all the way over here and select your multiplayer, which I have it off. This is a whole separate conversation. AI traffic I have live. This is a whole separate conversation. And for the purposes of this video, click live. All right. You can do preset and change your dates and everything, whatever. But just for this purpose, click live, hit close. You can still move your slider down here and not screw up live weather. So now let's just do a simple VFR flight plan. You can, if you know where you want to start, you can search it, you can put in stuff here. Or what I like to do, honestly, I just like to go random on the map and do set as departure, and then go random on the map and click and do set as arrival. The zoom to details we'll talk about separately. So there you go. In this airplane, it's going to take 1 hour and 26 minutes. It's 100 nautical miles. We're going to start on the runway with the engines running. And here's your wind when you leave and the wind when you arrive. Now, this is assuming the weather isn't going to change. It could, but we'll talk about that in a second when we choose runways. But this is the most basic thing to do. Airplane, live everything, switch your time if you care. Select a departure, select an arrival. That's how long it's going to take. That's how long it is. And that's it. Direct. So if you have a GPS in your cockpit, it'll show up on your GPS map. If you don't have GPS in your cockpit, hit V and this line will show up on your VFR map. Very simple. You don't need to interact with ATC. You can if you want to. You don't have to. Just hit fly. In fact, you don't even have to do that. You can just select one airport, hit fly, but we're doing flight plans in this video. So there you go. Very simple flight plan. That way you can look around, do whatever you want. Don't need to worry about rules. Just do whatever. But this will show up on your map or your GPS so you know where you're going. That's it. Super basic. I didn't go into any websites and I still have the weather. I didn't go into any other websites and I still have my distance and my time. Super simple, right? So there you go. VFR, direct, simple as it gets. If you want to take it one step further, you can go VOR to VOR, which is actually kind of outdated getting to be. And what that means is you're just going to fly from a radio tower to a radio tower, if there are any, and then to your airport. This is called, well, and this most simplest level is called slant alpha flying. And I used to actually only fly slant alpha. And that's a completely different conversation. Has nothing to do with flight planning. That's just flying slant alpha and going from radio tower to radio tower. And I actually have a video on slant alpha flying. I think it's only slant alpha video on YouTube, actually. You can search it out. It's with X-Plane in a jet, but same exact idea. So you're going to start here, again, on the runway. And you're going to go to this radio tower at a certain angle. The computer will do it for you, unless you want to learn how to do it. But that's separate, like I said. And then you'll see the airport, and boom, you'll land. Pretty straightforward. This will take 1 hour and 8 minutes. It's 102 nautical miles, because you're not going directly there. You're going to the closest radio tower. That'll work. Boom. What if you want to go one step further? In fact, let's actually just go back to GPS. We want to go one step further. Okay, let's say you don't want to start on the runway with engines running. Let's say you want to start at a parking spot with engines off. Way to zoom in, or actually let's reset this and I'll show you completely from scratch. So let's go back here, choose your airplane. Okay, flight conditions, yes, live, okay. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go here. Click there. You can go zoom to details. It'll go zoom in for you, right? And then you say, okay, I want to start at this parking spot because this is where my friend's real life airplane is. Select his departure. There you go. There's the weather, blah, blah, blah. And then you want to go over here and you want to land here. Again, you can just go like this and zoom to details. But you want to land at your other friend's real life parking spot. Select arrival. There you go. Parking spot to parking spot. It's going to take 33 minutes. It's 40 nautical miles. If you use ATC, they'll give you the runway to take off from, and they'll give you the runway to land at. Let's say you don't want to use ATC. How do you know which runway to use? Because again, we're using real life weather. That's half the point of this video. Okay, which runway do you want to land at? If you use ATC, they'll tell you. If you don't use ATC, you got to figure it out. So, wind here is coming from 145 degrees. We know 180 is south, 90 is here, 145 means it's coming from about here, okay? We've got 150 degrees, which is only 5 degrees off, or 330, which is way more than that. So since this is only 5 degrees off, we know, okay, we want to use this runway because the wind will be coming at us, crosswind of only 5 degrees versus a tailwind from the right, like this, right? So you want to fly into the wind, whatever number is closest. Why not use this? 190 to 145 is 55, right? I think it's 55 degrees. That's 55 degrees off. This is only 5 degrees off, so this is the best choice. If I went over that kind of quickly, just re-watch that section. It's just basically land whichever runway is closest into the wind. So you just subtract your degrees by adding a 0 to the runway. Whatever number is smallest, that's your runway, okay? So that would be a VFR flight, parking spot to parking spot, using the correct runway with weather turned on, okay? A little more complicated than just going for it, but that's something you can do. Again, we never left the simulator, right? We have not left the simulator. Now let's bump it up a notch and fly IFR. So let's choose a more complicated plane. Let's do, where's the TM? Let's do a turboprop. Let's use this one. Okay, again, you can select all these things if you want to. You don't have to. Again, I use multiplayer off, separate conversation. I use the AI traffic live, separate conversation, live, weather, and time. And you can select the time if you want to. Let's do an IFR flight. Let's go from here. Again, we're stepping it up a notch. We're going to zoom to details. And we're going to use this parking spot right here. That's our departure. Okay. And then, in fact, it's just lost wind information. I've never seen that happen before. There you go. Weird. Okay, so there's a glitch there. Whatever, it's still going to work. There's back again. Let's go to Princess Juliana. Look at all those airplanes lined up to run. You see that? To land. And we're going to want to use this parking for some reason. Okay, there's our arrival. It's 500 nautical miles, and this aircraft is going to take 1 hour and 55 minutes. If we select a different aircraft, this number will change higher or lower depending if the airplane is faster or slower. Okay, so that would be a direct route to VFR. You could do it. Was that realistic? Not for this airplane going this distance, probably not. So let's do an IFR flight. Let's do low altitude. It's getting more complicated down here. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's go over here and select our altitude. What do we want to do for this plane? We can do 12,000 feet for this plane. Easy peasy. Let's do 12,000 feet. Also, it'll tell you top of descent, which we'll get back to that if I remember. So now what are we going to do? We got all these options. What are we going to do? Well, the computer is saying, okay, based on the weather, 74 degrees, runway. I can't get to it. What runway is that going to be? It's in the way. Because of that, that's another problem sometimes, is you can't move these around, so that's in the way. So let's just use this one. That one's 100 degrees. This one is probably, without knowing the airport, it's going to tell us. Okay, 99. We'll get to this in a second. This 90 degrees. Runway 9 is 90 degrees. So this is 90 degrees. Wind is 74. So this is a much better choice if you do the math than this one. So the computer is saying you're going to leave here and you're going to go away. Go away. Come on, there you go. And you're going to use this departure, which we'll talk about in a second. And then right now, it's telling you you're going to use this transition or star in that approach, right? So we're not going to get into SIDS and stars, but that's kind of what this is. Now, we got lucky. With this one, it did all this for us for some reason. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes this will be direct or automatic, which you can leave it that way, okay? This is actually a really good example. It gets pretty messy sometimes. Okay, so what it did for us, which doesn't always happen, so we're lucky, is based on the weather, it chose our runway for us. We chose parking. We chose the airport and the parking. It chose the weather for us. I mean, it chose the runway for us based on the weather, okay? But because it's IFR, instrument flight rules, it chose a departure for us. You know, you can change this. Let's say you really want to do Mars 9. I don't know why you would, because that's probably going to send you out this way and blah, blah, blah. In the sim, which doesn't happen in real life, in the sim, it gives you the runway after the departure. In real life, it would just be, it would say Busta 1, DARPA 9. Okay? The sim is nice, and it gives you the runway. See, DARPA 10. So it's the same out to here, but that'd be runway 10 and 9. And then 28. Which would be whatever runway 28 was, 180 degrees. It'd be like a runway like here, coming around to DARPA, okay? It's really nice. So again, you don't have to go to your favorite airport's website and get the SIDS and stars, right? These are SIDS, instrument departures. You can just select from the list. You don't need to leave the simulator. I don't care what people tell you. You can if you want to, but you don't have to leave the simulator. So here we go. It selected DARPA 9 for us, which is great. A lot of times this is automatic, and you have to go down the list and look at the runway, and then you have to choose them like, okay, what does this one do? This one goes that way. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Or you can say this one. That does, okay, that definitely doesn't make any sense. So you would normally have to do it that way, but for some reason this gave us the best route, which is awesome. Okay, and this will show up in your GPS and your flight computer. All right, so then you come here and you go to the end, and again in this case it gave us, so here it gave us this. Okay, so this is automatic. This we're going to do some choosing. So here you go. The arrival, the star, is already in here for us. Again, based on the weather. So, well, you don't really only use runway 10 at Princess Juliana. But let's say there were other runway options. Again, you do the math. 100 degrees, take away 74, or 280 degrees, take away 74, whatever number's closer is the best choice, right? It did that for us. But let's say it didn't. Well, in this case, we have one choice. You would choose, right? And in real life, I believe this is a VOR approach, where you point at the VOR until you see the runway, then you scoot over. So they did that here, right? You point at the VOR until you see the runway, then you scoot over. Awesome. The sim is just getting better and better with every update. All right, and there's our parking spot. As far as approach goes, here you go. Do you want to use VOR for runway 10? Do you want to use RNAV for runway 10? Do you want to use NDB? That's up to you. All right, so if you don't know what this means, leave it at automatic, and ATC will tell you. Because it's IFR, you do need to use ATC in the sim, which I guess I shouldn't assume you knew that, so I'm telling you that now. And then they would often tell you, or you can choose to say like, okay, I really want to do the classic VOR approach. Okay, this is where things get crazy. It is an ARC in real life, and I know this because I've flown this before, but it's a mess in the sim, so we're not going to do that option. Our nav should be directing, okay, our nav goes directly there, and then the purple line is if you miss the airport, this is what you do. And then you try again. Okay, so yellow gets you there. If you miss, you follow the purple to get you back. So let's go back to the VOR 10. This is a disaster. So normally what you do is you go right to here and you go there. I think what this is telling you is, oh geez, if there's too much traffic and they put you in a holding pattern, you do this. I don't know what this means. That's a mess. Let's just say that. NDB, I didn't know there's an NDB 10. Okay. How about, no, see again, that's kind of messed up. So I guess in this case, and because this would have RNAV, we would choose RNAV or do automatic, right? So you can either leave it automatic or just go through and choose what is going to be best. Let's say we come from St. Bart's, where we would want to do a different approach, right? We want to come here and do the ARC and then the VOR thing, but whatever. So a little more complicated, but the point is we did not leave the simulator. We didn't leave the simulator. In this example, it was nice, and all we did was choose the airport and the run and the parking spot. It gave us the departure, but you can use any one you want. Okay. It gave us the arrival because there wasn't many to choose from. And the approach, in this case, we went through them all. We're going to use automatic. The wind is still there. The weather is still there. You would get the barometer and everything once you're in the game, in the sim. Once you hit fly, you can do ATIS or turn on ATC. You'll get your barometer and everything. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about flight planning with real world weather, not leaving the simulator. And here you go. It tells us the route we chose, which is actually the one in the middle. See the arrow right there. Hour and 43 minutes, 511 nautical miles. Okay. And there you go. So we did an IFR low Airways route, okay, with this airplane. When would you use high Airways? Well, let's say we chose, actually let's reset it. Let's say we chose everybody's favorite Airbus, which I don't fly, but we will show you an example. Close that. Let's do something random. Let's say you're going from Miami International and you're going to zoom the details and you're going to choose your favorite stand. Let's just say this one. That's your departure. Did I do real life weather? Yeah. And I know that. You can do this out of order, but I like to do this first. So, because sometimes you'll do this flight, they do this in the middle, and you click here and it erases everything. It's so annoying. So I go this box, that box, set my time, and then I do the middle. That's just how I do it. Let's say you want to go to Atlanta, but you don't know exactly where it is. So you can type it in. I think it's KATL, right? I normally don't fly huge airports. And it went right there. Now you don't get your zoom to details thing. You got to zoom in yourself now and go to details. And let's say you want to use this ramp because this is where you went in a real life flight and you want to redo your real life flight you were on. So you can choose it, right? Boom, there you go. We will go IFR high altitude. And we will go over here and we will do 38,000 feet. That's pretty reasonable. Oh, if you want to know where top descent is, and I totally forgot this in the low altitude one, you can just go to your nav log and go there. There's your top of descent. So because VNav isn't working in these airplanes, you would say, okay, when I get to Indigo, Sierra, Lima, Yankee, easily, that's my top of descent. And then you can adjust accordingly. That again isn't part of flight planning. That's just get to know that's where it is, right? So, all right, what are we going to do? Well, did it give us a departure? This time it did not. Okay, good. So, here we go. Based on the weather, 85 degrees. Wind is coming. Whoop. You can also go in. That's the next thing we'll talk about. Is you can do custom stuff too, which I don't know why you'd want to, but you can. So 85 degrees. Wind is coming from here. Runway 90 or 90 degrees. So only 5 degrees off. So that's the runway you want to use. Now, you can go right out towards the other airport. But that's not how they fly in real life. They would use a departure. So we're using runway 9. So let's see. We will go through all the different 9s. And this is where you either want to go through all these yourself. That one's not too bad, actually. Or you want to go to the real charted if you want to. If you don't want to waste your time going through every single one of these, that one's terrible. Although you may use this actually for some reason. Depends on traffic, I guess. If you don't want to take the time and go through every single one of these, you could go to the real life stars, that SIDS, if you want to. But let's just go like this. Okay, so we found one that looks reasonable. No crazy turns, whatever. We get to see the ocean a little bit. So we're going to use that as our departure. All right, I'm going to fly over here. You're going to go over here. See, the yellow is your departure that you did from here. The blue is the direct, or like, from VOR to VOR, waypoint to waypoint. You can zoom in and see them all if you want to. See, there's waypoints in there and whatever. But again, you don't have to. This keeps going. See, you don't have to do that though. Just let it do its thing, right? Still haven't left the sim. Here we go. Here's the weather. 122 degrees. Okay, which means it's coming from like right here. And 90 to 122, best choice. Way better than these over here. So that's your best choice. Now, the airplane will not fly do a 90-degree turn on the threshold and land. That is not realistic, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to select. Now there's different ways to do this. What I usually do is I'll kind of start by going like this. Okay, I want to do RNAV practice, or I want to do ILS. I want to do ILS. Classic ILS. 9 right. That's 9 right. There you go. What is this going to do? Okay, it's going to send us. Oh, great. We don't need to put in an arrival because it's going to be a really nice bank, a nice long final. We'll capture the ILS here. A nice long final. Okay, probably because, let's see, that's left. I selected right. Let's do left. I'm just curious if it's going to screw it up. 9 left. There you go. Even better. Even better. There you go. We can leave it out like that. Hit fly. If you want to mess with this, you can go like this. Okay, that would work. This would just be a sharper turn here. Or we could do, what does this 9 left do? Yeah, see, that comes from the north. We're not coming from the north. So let's use that one. There we go. And there is our most complete flight plan. IFR, high altitude, is going to take 1 hour and 28 minutes. And this aircraft, it's 623 nautical miles. We never left the simulator. We got the weather. We got the best runway choice. We got SIDS. We got stars. We got gate to gate. We did not leave the simulator. We did not pay any money for this. I mean, we bought the simulator. We did not spend a single penny outside of the simulator. We didn't go to any websites. We never left the simulator. And we have an extremely realistic IFR flight in a commercial airliner to real life airports. Now, let's say you're a purist and you say, but I want to do flight DL423 exactly how they do it. Then you gotta go and look it up. You know what I mean? But 98% of us are not going to do that, right? If you do really want to get crazy, and this is actually an achievement, you can zoom in somewhere, wait for the green airplane to show up like this, click on it, and do that real flight plan. There we go. This airport is going from Portsmouth to Waterbury. I don't know what airplane it was. You can look up that tail number. Remember that tail number said like N123, whatever. You can look up that tail number and see what that real life airplane is and then choose whatever's closest here. You can do that too. But again, you have to step outside of the sim. So here you go. Disappeared on me. Probably because it just landed. Here's one. Let's get a little bit closer. Okay. United Airlines 2206. Create flight plan. There we go. Now we know, based on the distance, it's probably a 787 or something. But you can look up that flight number and get the real life aircraft, and if it's in the sim, use it. But in this aircraft, the Airbus is going to take 5.5 hours. Alrighty. And see the circle? The circle is a range of your aircraft, by the way. No one has mentioned that before. Let's change to another aircraft. Let's go to the pits and close it up. Look, the range of the pits is this here. So we know we're way out of range and it would take 10 and 11 hours in the pits. So you get the idea. So there we go. So we did VFR basic, VFR, VOR to VOR, which is, I love doing, hardly ever used. That's an outside conversation if you want to do that manually. We did IFR, low altitude, IFR, high altitude, gate to gate, runway to runway. We did it all. We did every option. We even did real life flight plans just now. 2 of them actually, without ever spending a single penny outside of the sim and never leaving the sim, period. It can be done. Don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. And it's completely realistic. And why is it realistic if we're letting the flight simulator plan our flights for us? Because in real life, your flights, if we're doing commercial anyway, are already decided by your company. You're not going to plan a flight. If you're doing fun little stuff in real life, yes, you are going to plan flights, but there's apps for that. You do the same exact thing we did here. You just put it into your iPad and it does it for you. So there you go. Remaining realistic. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is how 98% of us are going to fly and use the flight plan. And I've been doing this for 20 years and I take it very seriously. And even I do this without stepping outside the simulator with real weather and everything. And then one more thing that I need to mention that is very important. Very important. So, those of you skipped around, I hope you're watching this part. When you do the flight planning on this screen, it makes it into your flight computer and ATC will pick it up. If you don't do this and you hit fly and you program your GPS or flight computer once the sim is running, it usually won't work at the time of this recording. And ATC usually won't pick it up at the time of this recording. Keep that in mind, because that's another problem I see is people are on the Discord are complaining that they did a complete FMC program. They imported a flight plan from their favorite website and it's not working. At the time of this recording, it's not going to work. They don't have that programmed in the sim yet. But if you do it from here, it will work. ATC will work with you. You can do a complete IFR flight with ATC, gate to gate, and it'll work. So there you go. Those of you who watched the whole thing, thank you very much. Those of you who skipped around, I completely understand why you would do that. Share this with your friends. I don't see many people talking about it like this. They're just telling you to go to websites. So hopefully this worked for you. Hopefully this applies to 98% of you. And stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time.